Heredity and Evolution. Learning about heredity and variations. A recognizable feature of human being or any other organism like height, complexion, type of hair, straight or curls, color of eyes, and shape of nose and chin, etc. are called characters or traits. Two parents, a male and a female, are involved in sexual reproduction. The sexually reproducing organisms produce sex cells or gametes. The male gamete is called sperm, fuses with the female gamete called ovum or egg to form a zygote, which gradually develops into a young one or offspring. Heredity. Gametes constitute the link between one generation and the next, and pass on the paternal, fathers, and maternal, mothers, characters or traits to the offspring. This relation that continues to exist between successive generations is referred to as heredity. The differences in the characters or traits among the individuals of a species is called variation. For example, human height is a trait which shows variations such as tall, medium, or short. Some small amount of variations is produced even during asexual reproduction. For example, the rose plants reproduce by the process of asexual reproduction. So, if we observe rose garden, all the rose plants almost look alike. But in animals including human beings, which reproduce by the process of sexual reproduction, a large number of variations are produced. It is due to these variations that no two human beings look alike, except identical twins. So, we conclude that the number of successful variations is maximized by the process of sexual reproduction. Accumulation of variations. The significance of a variation shows up only if it continues to be inherited by the offspring for several generations. Suppose a bacterium produces two bacteria by asexual reproduction. Again, suppose that one of the offspring bacterium has a variation due to which it can tolerate a little higher temperature or little more heat than the other one. This will be carried forward to the offspring of successive generations of this bacterium, which will be highly heat resistant and able to survive even at very high temperature. The bacteria which did not have this variation to withstand the heat would not survive under these circumstances and die. Before describing Mendel's experiments for explaining the transmission of characteristics or traits from parents to their offsprings or progeny. Chromosome is like a thread, like structure in the nucleus of a cell formed of DNA, which carries the genes. Different organisms have different number of chromosomes in their nuclei. There are thousands of genes on a chromosome which controls various characteristics of an organism. Genes are actually units of heredity which transfer characteristics or traits from parents to their offsprings during reproduction. Genes for controlling same characteristic of an organism can be of two types: dominant or recessive. The gene which decides the appearance of an organism even in the presence of an alternative gene is known as dominant gene. It dominates the recessive gene for the same characteristic on the other chromosome of the pair. The gene which can decide the appearance of an organism only in the presence of another identical gene is called a recessive gene. A single recessive gene cannot decide the appearance of an organism. Summary. Variations arising during the process of reproduction can be inherited, which may lead to increased survival of the individuals. Sexually reproducing individuals have two copies of genes for the same trait. If the copies are not identical, the trait that gets expressed is called the dominant trait, and the other is called the recessive trait. Traits in an individual may be inherited separately, giving rise to new combinations of traits in the offspring of sexual reproduction. That is all in this topic, students. Let us learn about inherited traits in our next topic.